It's one thing to talk about a person, it's another to see them. And I did a Google search just to be sure, and they wear a lot more colors, but in Rachel's time, this is pretty much what a shepherdess would have worn. You got your loose skirts so that you're comfortable and you can climb up the rocks after the sheep, etc. In fact, I've sheared in this actual petticoat. I've got my underskirt because sometimes you got to take this off. Things get messy. I've got my hand knit shawl here in case I get cold or if I have to carry a lamb or schlep something on my back. I've got my staff that I actually use to catch actual sheep on the run. Alex has used it too. They use shorter staffs from what I've seen in that part of the world, but same thing, same curl. I've got my shofar in case I need to call for help, which would have been very important, especially for a shepherdess. I've got my extra bell up here because sheep lose things a lot. 2 of my sheep wear bells, and I'm waiting to decide who this will go on. And it's important that they know where I am too. And then I've got my little bag here for my lunch or my spinning, because I gotta have something to do while I'm out on the range. Where am I going for it? Can everybody hear me okay? Alright, you were right, I was wrong. So we're gonna talk about Rachel. I bet you all thought in this week's parsha I was gonna pick the sheep part, right? Yeah, I'm gonna leave that because I'm planning on doing a series of talks about actual shepherds in the Torah, and then shepherds of people as well. So that will be a series that I'll offer on my website. You can look that up next year. So I thought I would focus on Rachel, who doesn't get talked about that much, right? Her name means you, which is a female sheep. And the flocks in that time could get very, very large. You're talking about nomadic people, right? So they move, and I don't know that Rachel's family moved that much, that they were nomadic, but they amassed over the time that Jacob was in Haran. Certainly they amassed great numbers of flocks, and they could number 150 to 200,000 head. So you've got, people in this area that own vast herds and flocks, and they would mix the sheep and the goats together. And Rachel, it tells us, she was enough for all the sheep, for she was a shepherdess. Did you know she is the only woman that is named as a shepherdess in the Torah? The only one. Later, Yittro's daughters, all 7 of them it takes to herd the flock, and they're getting pushed around by shepherds and stuff. This doesn't happen to Rachel, which is extraordinary, because I can tell you it's still pretty much a man's game. But she broke through that fleece ceiling. And when Jacob comes up to the well, there's all these guys standing around with their sheep and goats, and it's the middle of the day. He says, the sun is still up. What are you doing? Water your flocks. Get back out there. And they say, we're waiting. Rachel's not here yet. And we have this concept that it was because the stone was so heavy and it took so many people to move this stone off the well, but I'm not sure that that's true either. To me, it shows a level of respect where Rachel is concerned. There's 3 men or 3 groups of shepherds, 3 flocks here at the well, and they're all ready to go, and they're waiting for a girl. Well, the girl's not going to push the rock off. They don't need her straying. That denotes a level of respect. We wait because this is a communal spot. That's a precious, vital resource, and we're all going to gather and do this together. And what does Jacob do? He breaks minhag, right? He pushes the stone off by himself when he sees Rachel, and he's like, here, I have water your flock. Pick me. And at first, it seems like a selfish act, right? Because he broke with the community. But I thought about it, and the more I read this parsha, I thought, that must have been real significant to her as well. He cried. He loved her from the get-go. He went there to find a wife. She's out with the sheep. She's doing her thing. She's good. And this man comes and breaks with tradition. Well, we know the tradition of Haran, right? It wasn't that great of a place. There was a reason that Rebecca left, right? And Isaac, and they went away. They were like, we're not going to raise our kids here. It was not a good place. And Laban stays. Laban stays with his family, and here comes Jacob to get a wife. And she's like, this guy's different. And what happens next in her story? Leah marries him. And there's a rabbinic tradition also that there was a secret signs that they gave each other, right? Raquel and Jacob, so that they would know it was each other, because they kind of figured Laban would trick them, and she gave the signs to her sister. It tells us that Leah wept. She was supposed to go to Esau, right? There were 2 boys and 2 girls, and it was just assumed that when they grew up, they were partnered for each other, the elder for the elder, the younger for the younger. And Rachel goes, this is a way that I can get my sister out. She didn't, Leah wept bitterly. She begged God to change her fate. Raquel says, go ahead. I know I'm the prize here. You take it. And she gave her entire life. Now, I'll tell you, from her profession, I work with rams, I work with ewes, I work with lambs. There is nothing as obstinate as a ewe. I have been hurt worse by shearing ewes than I ever have by a ram. I've got bruises from, 6 years ago from a ewe, but not from a ram. So ewes are very calculating. Why? Because they have to take care of their families. And here's Raquel, who's done a man's job her whole life. In fact, there are no other women mentioned in this parsha. It's Leah, Raquel, and their nannies. That's it. No mothers, no aunts, no female relations. Even though Laban doesn't have sons at the beginning, and he has sons at the end. There were other women involved somewhere. But these are the equals to the men. These are the ones that are able to make change. Raquel makes change. She's a parallel for Jacob. She's a younger sibling like he is. She has a rivalry with her older sibling like he does, although it doesn't get her killed. She is her parents' favorite. Laban allows her to do things that Leah can't do. When Jacob says, I want her as my wages, he says, okay, better you than another man. And we'll get to that in a second. They're both hard bargainers. Jacob bargains for Esau's birthright, right? And later on, after this parsha, Raquel does the same thing with her sister for access to Jacob. Give me your mandarins. Well, what will you give me in return? They're both thieves. They're both cheated by Laban, and in turn they cheat him. And they're both fighters. She had to use this thing against predators. And I'm sure in a man's world out there by herself, she was good looking, right? The Torah tells us she was hot. She probably had to beat off some guys as well as some girls. It's no joke. There was a reason that women were not allowed to do this work. Because it was dangerous. And not just from 2-legged predators. And then, of course, Jacob wrestles with God. So, Laban had no sons. And culturally, at that time, if you had no sons, you could get a close relative, close male relative, and marry him into your family. Like Laban did, right? You're my cousin, so come in, marry my daughter. And that makes him the firstborn. Any other male children that are born after have to share in the inheritance. Well, we know Laban sucks, right? He's not a good guy. He cheats Jacob at every turn. He manipulates him. He's got him as an indentured servant for 20 years. 20 years! No wages. They have to renegotiate this. So Jacob says, I'm leaving. And Laban doesn't like that at all. But it's better that he leaves than he stays, because now he has natural-born sons and they can inherit. What does Raquel do when they leave? She takes the family gods. Why? Is that her God? She believes strongly in the God of her husband, right? She's seen the power. She doesn't need these idols. I don't think she's homesick, because the girls are pretty much like, yeah, let's get on the camel. It's time to go. It's been time to go. The idols would pass, the family gods would pass to the firstborn. So she takes them, and it's a statement. She's already given. She's been giving her whole life. She gave her sister a way out. She gave her handmaid to Jacob. She married Jacob to get clear of her father's house. And they're stuck for 20 years. And now, it's her turn. So, when her father goes to shear his sheep, she fleeces him. She takes the family gods, she packs them on her camel, because Jacob is the rightful family heir. Jacob is the one that deserves the inheritance. It's a statement. You do what you want, but we are the rightful head of this house. We don't need you. And then she dies, giving birth to Benjamin. And everybody says, oh, it's so sad she died too young. And I thought about that, and I thought, but did she? God makes things happen right on time. And I think that the reason that she died without being buried with Jacob was because she was a shepherdess. To a ewe, her family is her life. She will defend them with her life. The shepherdess is the mother of all the flock. They're not just animals, they're my babies. I know all of them by name, by sight, by sound. So she saves her family from this abusive, oppressive situation. She's equal to any man. She shepherded her family out of Haran. And then she stands as a shepherd for the rest of us. Because later in the Torah, when we're all in diaspora, we're exiting and we pass by Rachel's grave. And she stands for all of us. So, I don't know. I don't really have like a moral for you to carry forward, but I just thought she was pretty cool. So, Shabbat Shalom.